everybody, it's Mel. Thank you so much for joining me today for my Diversify Me game and some reading stats. So it's time to look through all of my July reads and see how I'm going with my Diversify Me game. The Diversify Me game is a game that I play every month to see how my reading went throughout the month, to make sure that I'm on track with some of my goals, and to ensure that I am reading at least somewhat diversely throughout the month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the board and talk you through how that all went, and then we'll come back and do some stats. So let's go and do that now. Right, so last month I did ask you guys to tell me what you thought I should do about BIPOC author, because I read half of the Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chotsky, but I soft DNF'd it. One person commented and said they didn't think it should count. Another person commented and said it depends on how far you are into the book. If you've read a fair chunk of it, then I think it should count. I was halfway through, so I'd read 50%. I feel like that should count because it's not like I read the first 10 pages just to make it count for this, and also it's a soft DNF. But because I only had those two responses really saying two different things, I decided just to not do anything about it. So I'm not going to take a magnet for myself, but I'm also not going to give myself a line. So that's what I've decided there. And going forward, if I've read more than 50% of a book before I put it down for whatever reason, then I'm allowed to count it for any of those things. That's what I'm going to say for that. But let's do July's game. So first up, we have The Circle Opens by Tamora Pierce. Tamora Pierce is not a BIPOC author. There was no LGBTQIA+ rep. There was no neurodiverse rep. I wouldn't say mental or physical health. She's not an Australian Aboriginal author. I read it in English, so it wasn't a translated work. It wasn't a comic or graphic novel. It wasn't a short story. I didn't read it as an arc, and it wasn't non-European inspired, so no points for that. Then we have Perry Angel's Suitcase by Glenda Millard. Glenda Millard is not a BIPOC author. There was no LGBTQIA+ rep, no neurodiverse rep. I do think there was some pretty good mental health rep in there, so I'm going to give a line for that. Not a very well put line, but it's there. Glenda Millard is not an Australian Aboriginal author. The book was not translated when I read it. Wasn't a comic or graphic novel. Technically wasn't really a short story, more like a novella, I guess. Didn't read it as an arc, and not non-European inspired. Then we have The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is not a BIPOC author. In terms of LGBTQIA+, quite a few of the characters in the Sandman comics are queer. However, I haven't come across any conversation around the representation. You could very easily read it, or what I've read so far, and not realise. So I'm not going to give myself a line for that. I wouldn't say neurodiverse rep. I wouldn't say mental or physical health rep either. Neil Gaiman is not an Australian Aboriginal author. Didn't read it as a translated work. It is, however, a comic, and I read both Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the original run. 2 lines because I read 2 comics. Neither of them are short stories, neither of them are arcs, and neither of them are non-European inspired. Alright, so then I have The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. Pat Barker is not a BIPOC author. There was no LGBTQIA+ rep, no neurodiverse rep. Yeah, look, I think you could say there was some mental health rep. I think you could say. I'm going to actually rub them out and do it again. That's better. So that was the line that was already there, and then the extra line that I had given it, and now the line for The Silence of the Girls. Pat Barker is not an Australian Aboriginal author. It was not translated. It was not a comic or graphic novel. Not a short story. Didn't read it as an arc, and not non-European inspired. I would say the same for The Women of Troy. So I'm going to give a line to health, but nothing else. Alright, then I have The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Silvia Moreno Garcia is a Mexican-American author, so that's a line there. No LGBTQIA+ rep. I wouldn't say neurodiverse rep. Not mental or physical health. She's not an Australian Aboriginal author. I didn't read it as a translated work. It is not a comic or graphic novel, not a short story, didn't read it as an arc. Non-European inspired. I don't think I can say that, because although there's inspiration from Mexico, I think there is also inspiration from Regency romances, so I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments what you think. And then the final book, we have Heartstopper Volume 1. Alice Oseman is not a BIPOC author, however there is a lot of LGBTQIA+ rep, so that is a line there. I don't think there's any neurodiverse rep. I don't really think there's mental or physical health rep in this first volume. Not an Australian Aboriginal author, wasn't translated. Comic or graphic novel, it is a graphic novel. Not a short story, didn't read it as an arc, and definitely not non-European inspired. But we did get a line for BIPOC and a line for LGBTQIA+, so that means that I don't have to have any lines in the unhappy area. And we did actually earn a 3-line bit for health, mental and physical health rep. So I can give myself a magnet. And let's go with this pretty little pink one. And I'm going to reposition everything and see you again in a sec. Okay, so let's now go through all of my stats. So I probably don't keep as much track of as many stats as other people do. I'm not a huge stats person, but I know that it is interesting to see how it's going in terms of ratings and whatnot, so I do keep some stats. But anyway, this is what I have. So in terms of how many books I read 8 books. However, because 2 of the books were comics, they didn't give a huge amount page count wise, so pages were 1,561. That actually seems pretty low to me. I don't know if I've added that up right, but anyway, I can't bother going into it again, so that's what we're going to go with. So I had all 8 books were physical, so I didn't read anything via audio or ebook. Depending on how you look at it, I either read 1 or 3 books with LGBTQIA+ rep. So I say that because, as we've already talked about, the Sandman books do have queer characters in them, but what I've read so far doesn't have any discussion about queer identities or queer characters, but they are existent in the world. So yeah, I'm not sure what to do about that. But I did read Heartstopper, which is definitely queer representative, so it still counts. I had 1 book written by a BIPOC author, so that is Black, Indigenous or person of colour. And I didn't read anything translated, and I didn't read any arcs. Not doing that well there. My average ratings, I had an average staff rating of 4.44 and an average core pile rating of 8.29, which is pretty fantastic, I think. Probably my best reading month so far, but in general I'd say I'm doing really, really well this year. And then breakdowns for stars, I had nothing that was 1 to 1.5, nothing that was 2 to 2.5. I had 1 3.5 star, 2 4 stars, 2 4.5 stars, and 2 5 stars. That seems incorrect. How has that happened? Oh, I had, sorry, my mistake. I had 3 5 stars, so whoops. But yeah, amazing. And then for genre, we had 1 fantasy, we had 2 historical fictions, we had 2 paranormal, we had 1 contemporary, and we had 1 magical realism. So yeah, those are all the stats. That's my game. Very nice, short, quick video for you today. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of the books I talked about, what you thought of them. Let me know in the comments below what you think of my game and just anything you'd like to add. If you'd like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, then leave me some kind of chart emoji. All of my social media details are listed in the description below, so if you'd like to go and follow me on any of those other platforms, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.